And this will be the last of the genetics recordings. And so what we'll look at on this last one is modes of cultural transmission. How do these things get transferred from individual to individual? And there's three different types. There's vertical, there is horizontal, and there is oblique. So the vertical one is across generations, parent to offspring. The horizontal is peer-to-peer, and the oblique is across generations, but not with the parent. It is with some other adult. So we'll give you examples of all three of these. We'll start with vertical. Happens in bottlenose dolphins. A couple of different behaviors that are taught from parent to child would be beaching, where they chase fish up onto the beach, and then they will have a feeding frenzy where the fish now has no options. And, you know, we see that orca will do that to seals. And so that is a very common vertical transmission. Another one would be sponging. And what happens is we have seen dolphins actually take sponges and feel around on the bottom, and that will scare out fish. And again, that would be a parent to a child. It's usually females and their calves that are actually doing these two different types of behavior. The genetic analysis, as far as we can tell, is there is no gene for these two behaviors. So it's definitely a taught behavior. Horizontal transmission is going side to side. And so what the study was done on guppies, and they actually taught them a long path and a short path to the food. It turned out the long path to the food was difficult to teach. But they finally got it. They did that. And then what they did is they put naive guppies into the tank. And it turned out that they didn't follow their parents. They've actually followed their peers. And so they would take the long path, although the short path was the easiest and quickest to food. They would actually, if there was a young guppy that had been taught the long pathway, even though they see their parents going to the quick way, they will follow and would actually use the long path method. So again, not genetic, definitely learned, and this time not learned from the parent, but learned from their peers. And then the last one is the oblique transmission, and wild raised, more afraid than lab raised on snakes. So what they did is lab raised, you know, they didn't know what a snake was. And they would show the rhesus monkey a snake, and they weren't scared of them. There was no reason to be. But they learned to be fearful because they were watching other adults, not their parents, be afraid. And they tried to do it with flowers, and they found out that the flowers didn't do it, and there was no reason. So this gets back to that biased learning that we talked about earlier. Is flowers, there's no reason to be afraid of them, whereas for snakes, they could be dangerous. All right, and then who is smarter? You know, here we have a cat, a dog, a chimp, and a dolphin. There's been all kinds of arguments, and I guess I'm in the corner, so maybe maybe you can include me. And then this is from the article I wanted you to read about from last week. And so these two last slides we will actually talk about in our next Zoom session. So I am not going to talk about it. And so that will end the recordings.